and we do have a lot of very premier Thresh players here in the LPL, so nothing surprising there is we are going to have BLG on the red side once again.
So, my questions follow through once again. You know, you already talked about the Renekton, that's banned away by BLG on red. It's a Rumble as well that they can't give away to Shadow, but I like that we get a Zika ban in game number 3. We get the LeBlanc taken away just in case. So, Karma alongside with it with the Jace. Now I'm interested. It was Varus last time on the red side, last takeaway. 1 second. There it is again.
Lee Sin. I think, I'm surprised to say here you either go Lee Sin or Udyr, but I expected it to be the Lee Sin with the impact that it did have in the last game. And that still opens up you to those AP junglers if you want them, but no. Shadow wanting to make sure he's able to get the more, I'd say, aggressive early jungler, like one that can find those gank opportunities, run in the lane, stun, job's done, the whole meme, the whole shenanigan. But ooh,
okay,
something that we missed. Yeah, Nocturne.
100% participation in the LPL. What do we call it? 100% presence, as I lose my words.
Presence and most banned champion in the LPL right now. Most banned champion, 100% presence in games. Him and Renekton being the only champions that really hold that spot. It is a triple flex between top, mid, and jungle, so we don't know what to expect just yet. I think Lee Sin is still a pretty good pick if BLG want to go towards it. We saw what BuBu did last time around. You would expect that Zika should be able to pilot that one as well.
Okay, we get the set on the other side, though. So again, just going through the meta picks, I know our audience will have seen this so many times, right? Like, all right, well, Ezreal's open, so now Kramer has to pick Ezreal again, and that'll be the AD carry of choice. We are getting into routine in our meta. I think 11.12 will shift things up. This would be interesting if we just go, nah, forget Ezreal. Put Kramer on a bit of agency.
Yeah, so they're already all in with that dive comp that wants to get straight onto the backline with the side of LGD. We have seen Kramer already pull this one out, so not too surprising. And now for the side of BLG. Actually gonna go straight towards the Akali. This is something that over in the LEC, you can see it first picked, you can see it blind picked all the time. Not something we see all too often here. You can guess that you are gonna play against Set, and it is one of the matchups where Akali is totally fine, right? You throw down the Shroud. It gives Set a lot of issues with, finding the face breaker, or if you want to try and dodge out on the center of that haymaker and dodge out on all the damage. So a lot of options there you do find in the laning phase, and right now BLG has a composition that really punishes immobile backliners, but luckily for LGD, they haven't really drafted too many as of yet, but we know Kramer is going to be feeling a ton of pressure coming out from these 3 picks.
I mean, he is, and I think I want to go back to, while we see the pick and bans, evolving here with the Thresh, with the Fate, Viego, okay, expected. I want to say that, Zika on something that can have pop-off potential is a lot of fun. I think the potency of Akali right now is so good. We know Nocturne's kind of busted as well. It's just in a really good position. So 2 really big power picks. I don't even say it. Okay, Lee Sin's also in a really good place. So it feels like BLG just picking up power pick after power pick.
I'm really surprised that LGD didn't ban this Ezreal away. Because when you're looking at the first 3 picks of BLG's draft, the first thing that jumps out to you is you want an AD carry that can be self-sufficient, right? Because everything else is going to be jumping away from you. So banning out the Thresh, it's like, okay, I guess that kind of works because you have Thresh with something like the Jinx in the backline peeling for, but there'd still be a lot of threat coming out from BLG's comp regardless. So we're going to see the Leona instantly locked in, wanting to get their hands on that support, feeling it is too high priority to give over. We know it is stronger in the laning phase than Nautilus. That has always been one of the keys to that matchup. And now for the side of LGD, you expect what could be a top laner coming out, but right now hovering over mid laners, so they realize, hey, we don't want to throw that set into the Akali matchup where the Akali does get a bit of a free laning phase. Yeah,
so at this point, Sylas is going to be locked in there. So changing things up just a little bit. You already mentioned how you're amazed at Ezreal making it through. Me too. I always expect that LGD, when they don't ban it away, they want to pick it up. But yeah, last pick here for aiming. And walk me through a little bit of BLG's comp, because the dive ability, already talked about how Akali's going to interact with it, but more so on what your role is if you're someone like aiming, PP God, or even way outside of the core solo lanes.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, right? Because you very clearly have a pick comp, a comp that wants to use tempo, traverse the map first, and then use the paranoia coming out from Bubu and chaining that with Weiwei and Zika finding a pick either in the enemy jungle or getting into a team fight first and instantly deleting Kramer, so then you do have a numbers advantage. And then Aiming and PP-God are kind of left to fend to their own devices, especially Aiming, right? Because PP-God will probably be the one leading that charge as well, and Aiming having to use his E and defensive tools to peel for himself. And then on the opposite side, we have a comp that just wants to run full on forward. They are up against a lot of assassins, but they aren't that squishy, so they do have that going for them. But still, not an extremely high damage comp coming out from the side of LGD.
Which is going to be interesting to watch, I think, going forward as well. The priority put onto the Udi, we have to see if it's worth it for this game number 3. Shadow showed us it a couple of games before, and getting agency within this jungle, setting up the team for success. Again, he feels like the leader that LGD needed, and he's had a pretty decent series so far. You know, game 2 was quiet just because I feel like, you know, LGD were quiet in game 2. We saw what happened in the early game, and it kind of rolled over from there. So, Lyric going into the third game, the final game of the night, we're going to find out if BLG are not only the game 3 takers, the game 3 kings. I was looking for a better word there. They go to game 3 a lot. Lyric said it before. They're our new game 3 team. And that's the story.
Death, taxes, and BLG game 3s, the things in life you can always count on. And,
that's it.
You know, I guess have a positive and or most likely negative view on most of those. But now, going in, I think going to be interesting to see, especially how Xie comes out with this Silas. You do have a lot of good ultimates available for you to take away, but you do know that members of BLG are going to be wanting to jump into you. Your composition wants to be jumping into them, and I feel like a lot of this is going to come down to on how you can execute early on. But I'm really looking at BLG for once that paranoia opens up for how they can start using that across the map, and especially looking at Weiwei on this Lee Sin, because I feel like a lot of the boon in Weiwei's career has come from once carry junglers have become meta, and then how proficient he was on things like the Graves, like the Lilia, and the pop-off moments that he's been able to have since these champions have been out.
Yeah, his pop-off, like the Nidalee meta's always going to suit someone like Weiwei. Again, I circle back to that V5 game in summer 2020, and Weiwei's career, his split on the V5 roster that had Mole, it was great.
He's actually only played Lee Sin 6 times in his career.
Wow. That's, okay, game number 7 then. Let's see how he goes on the Lee Sin jungle. Remember, you and I were talking about this earlier. I mean, Lee Sin within the lane, most often seen, I think, sitting on 0% win rate in the LPL right now, right? We talked about jungle a little bit before.
Yes, in jungle, it has not picked up a game yet. Oof. And even going back to that 6 games, right? Weiwei's played since 2018. He's 2-4 on the champion. So, you know, at least the pick in itself doesn't inspire great confidence, especially for the fact that a lot of people would agree inside the jungle itself, he is very lackluster. The only strength in the jungle is the fact that you are flexing for your soul lane, so then they are potentially getting better matchups.
Yep. As I think it's an also important note on better matchups that Xie going into Zika. Another good thing about that for BLG is the fact that you're not matching up Bubu with someone who can match his ultis. The global pressure that we talk about from Bubu's Nocturne, at least Nocturne in general, we know how good of an impact it can have on the map. And Silas used to do this with Twist of Fate, used to match that global pressure. So I feel like that's a small plus, however small.
And this is also one thing, right, is we've been seeing this matchup a little bit here in the LPL, and I'm surprised at how heavily we've seen Akali's be able to get Cryo in this matchup, just pretty much constantly trading out with your Q, able to force those waves in, find the early Cryo, and start working with your jungler. We're going to see if BLG can find a gank on top.
Oh, good damage from Garvey here. Not sure about the Haymaker, but halfway up there for the pit grid. As Weiwei's going to be moving down. Shadow gets the smite down, make sure it can't be taken away, and he's out of there.
Yeah, that one's a bit of a feels bad man moment for Weiwei right there. At first, you're kind of okay with the trade top being slightly less favorable because you're the team that has your jungler there, right? It's a 1v2. Yep. You want to force him into thinking that there isn't anyone there and then go for the gank, but you're not able to find a gank. Udyr comes in and instantly kills the Scuttle Crab as well. He's also going to get the second one, which isn't too surprising in this matchup with how far ahead he is able to get on CS. Going to recall first as well, come back on the map first with a tempo advantage, and now this is his opportunity where he can start looking to influence a lane before one of his camps do come back up. But Krugs will be the first thing to come up for him, but it does look like he's running towards that top side right now with the fact that Garvey is doing a pretty good job of making sure this wave doesn't push in too quickly.
Bit of a CS lead up there as well. Jungle CS lead you already talked about there, getting the first reset off, heading straight towards the top side. But there is a cheeky little control ward that's going to spot him out on his adventure. As he walks past here, just know, there's Shadow, there's the lens, and there's the control ward. So wave pushing out against BuBu at this point, so Shadow won't have another opportunity. And while he is spotted on this top side, looks like he's just going to try and find some opportunities up towards this top side. Krugs is still there as he now, sorry, not there anymore, as he now spots it out. We'll just go back to his side of the map.
Yeah, and you know, back to the BuBu thing is, you know, BuBu's actually not really behind because a big wave was crashing into him still. LGD trying to find the opportunity to make that sort of play on top. And so far, we're just in a scenario where we're ping-ponging waves. Mark trying to hold this wave here because Kramer did go for that reset earlier. Looks like Kramer's only going to lose out on 1 or 2 minions, so it's not too bad for his side. And so far, no action happening anywhere. We saw Weiwei looking for action. We saw even Shadow right heading towards the top side, just making sure everything was okay. But so far, we've only seen that BLG have had control of all 3 lanes early on.
So let's just talk a little bit about jungle matchup while things are slowing down, right? Because with how volatile Akali is, with how, you know, Nocturne can play out the game as well, it feels like Weiwei's job here is to make sure that LGD solo laners get punished for trying to have a stable lane when, you know, these two solo laners on BLG want to kind of build up some of that early game momentum.
I mean, the thing is, though, is Weiwei, you can't really punish the enemy laners when your laners are consistently pushing in, right? Because we look at mid, Zika's been pretty much under Xie's turret every time we've seen him.
Sure.
BuBu has been pushing in, except off of bounce backs. BuBu, though, looks like he might go down.
And that's a stun. Job definitely done. Game number 3 and first blood is over to Shadow.
Yeah, and, you know, Weiwei even tried to hover up around the timing where he's crashing in the wave. Still, sadly, overextended, does get punished by Shadow. Zika now extremely safe. He knows what Shadow should be trying to do, right? He just saw him gank top lane. He knows he just runs down river, comes for this gank mid. Has E, has W available to get away as well. So, finally seeing a nice early punish coming out for the side of LGD.
So what you're saying is I was asking the right question for the wrong team, because it feels like Shadow punishing BuBu is a great start to the game, and trying to see what else he can get done on the map. He picks up first blood. That's a Bambi Cinder as well. And LGD now ahead by a bit of gold too. Just note that mid lane is down in CS, bottom lane is even, but it is that CS lead through the jungle. It is the gold now on Shadow, as he's 700 over Weiwei and has level 6 as well. So now towards the bottom side, I'm curious as how Shadow can push the momentum after getting the resource advantage.
Yeah, and we're looking at PB God roam and get vision around bottom side. It looks like Shadow wants to try and punish there as well, but Weiwei is on this side of the map, so if any action breaks out, Weiwei should be able to respond. Herald's going to come up in about 40 seconds, so we're going to want to keep our eye on which team is going to opt for that. And with Zika having the Oblivion Orb, he should be able to keep consistent control of this mid lane, so BLG should be the team that has the option, right? BuBu already having the Paranoia as well, so once he pushes in this next wave top, maybe start hovering down and start roaming and setting up for one of these plays.
Bit of a nuke, and when you have an Oblivion Orb mid for Zika as well, if it's Xie who's caught in the crossfire, then you already apply the Grievous Wounds. You make it so that Xie is just going to get nuked down, and Shadow could even be next. Weiwei over there with the ward hop thanks to the control ward, but BuBu walking down. He's walking over a control ward, so LGD know he's here.
Yeah, just getting control of the tops of the map right now. Nice vision coming out for them if they do elect into wanting to take this Herald. But with the fact that BuBu roamed, it means that Garvey's wave is stacking up, so he should be able to have the push for now and force BuBu in. Engage comes in, but nothing's going to happen. Hysterics.
No, it is not. True Shot Barrage.
There was a cleanse.
There was a cleanse. There was a cleanse, and that's good. And Aiming and PP God actually having a decent time in the laning phase. We've seen aggression so far in this game work out pretty nicely. And Shadow up in the top side as well, so bottom lane knows they have to kind of just pull back for LGD, and now Weiwei's going to be spotted up here as well.
Yeah, and we're going to see BLG posturing to take this fight probably. We do see Zika catching in the wave in mid, so not going to go for it instantly. Weiwei going to try and find an avenue into River by ganking top lane.
But Garvey's walked up and Buby's gotten the fear. Weiwei joins in, but Sonic Wave doesn't connect. Haymaker Shield helps out a lot as well. Zika moving in, but Herald's gone on down. Now for Shadow, wants to turn around, flashes on top of Zika just to get out, but the Predator missile in Bubu finds its mark. He's paranoid, and now he'll pay the price. Zika gets the kill, and it's the first kill for BLG in Game 3.
Still, Shadow able to pick up that Rift Herald, so they're going to be able to drop that one down somewhere and get some gold on the opposite end. I like that BLG are instantly transitioning towards the Dragon, though. We even have Zika picking up the Leeching Leer, so signaling he's going to go for the Riftmaker build, which makes a ton more sense in this game to me, where, right, we've typically had two builds come out from Akali. It's either the Hextech Rocket Belt or the Riftmaker coming in. Riftmaker, when you look at the enemy composition, Garvey on the set, Shadow on the Udyr, you have a Silas, you have a Nautilus, you have a Kaisa, everything's coming into you. So you're going to be able to do a good job of, you know, stacking up that passive with Riftmaker, and you don't necessarily need to close the gap on any carry in the backline with something like a Rocket Belt.
Because they're going to be closing the gap on each other. You talked about it a little bit before. I mean, you know, Zika, Nocturne for Bubu, the way these comps interact, people are going to be diving each other. We're going to have a bit of a
This
mishmash.
is going to be like this is going to be like that movie, what is it, 300, where you just have like all like the, you know, all the warriors running at each other towards the middle, or a mosh pit. Could be anything. There's a lot of, you know, analogies that can go with the way these
it's going to be
comps.
like Jumper. Have you seen the movie Jumper, where, you know, they can teleport, they can jump from places to places? All they have to do is think
No, I
about where
have
they're
not.
going. Essentially, you can teleport, right? And so this game for me is going to be exactly like Jumper, where people are just going to appear behind each other and fight each other. And they get into a fist fight. You know, the guys who are jumpers, and they teleport to different places. Somehow they get to Tokyo. Not sure how, but it's cool. Anyway, for people who haven't seen Jumper, Samuel Jackson's in it.
This is going to be like that episode of Wilfred, where Wilfred and Ryan fight each other in one episode, and I actually can't go into any more because it's not PG for
definitely
broadcast.
That's an MA.
But I'm just saying, if you've watched Wilfred, you know, probably the greatest show ever.
Okay,
Probably.
this could be like The Last Samurai, where Tom Cruise is fighting for honor. You know, that's what this Game 3 is all about. We could pick any movie.
This could be Fight Club, you know?
But we've already talked about it. That's the first rule of Fight Club. We're obviously on top of our movie references, and there's every single movie you could think of that would make its way.
I mean, Wilfred is a TV show that originated from your homeland, so...
Yeah, and the dude who's in it was in a show called The Wedge. I know.
I know, I kept telling you to watch it, but you never did. But hey, you know what you should watch is Weiwei going for this gank on top, but every time we've seen Weiwei go for this, nothing's panned out because Garvey is a very respectful young lad.
Yeah, he is. Not going to overcommit there. Weiwei backs away, and Garvey all the way back at turret, you mentioned. But Shadow with the Rift Herald, that's something we have to look at. Look at it timing out as Mark, Shie, and Shadow, the boys' club, looking for an angle. It's the bottom lane that has 4 turret plates here. You already mentioned before, it is a big decision-making tactic when turret's already taken a bit of chip damage. So it might be Shadow who aims for bot, but he still hasn't used it, Lyric. I mean, this is timing out. It's got 20 seconds, 30 seconds on it, max.
Yeah, and you would expect with the fact that he's hovering around the bot side, that's probably where they're going to end up using it, right? But Kramer actually coming in for a recall right now. Nautilus heading mid, so it looks like they actually are going to opt into giving that over to Shie, but look at the minimap. BLG's support and jungle are matching.
I mean, they are. The pressures on. PP got spotted out Weiwei there as well. Wave crashing in. Look at where the Herald is. Shadow, if you go for the fight, the Herald's going to disengage. Kicked away. Might just have to put it down and get it out of the way, as the refund is about 10 seconds off. Ladies and gentlemen, that Rift Herald, it's hurting a little bit as TP comes back up to the top side. Bubu dealing with Shie, good spell shield, but the paranoia is stolen away. Herald was now placed down mid in the last 5 seconds, so at least it'll give gold down. But Garvey's not even going to walk up. He's like, whatever, you just take the gold, and all of it goes to Shadow.
Overall, I think this was a slight win for the side of BLG for the fact that LGD would have been able to put down Herald mid regardless of if any of this happened, and BLG forced out a TP from Garvey. So, in the end, if you think about what would have happened was probably a similar scenario, it's like, cool. You just ended up getting 2 TPs. Yeah, you're right. Shie having the TP top to cover that wave as well, to make sure that BUB wasn't getting ahead, and LGD weren't dropping any waves or gold on the map.
And that's rough. I mean, you get the paranoia, but look, you would have gotten that if you just moved Shie up anyway. So, at this point in the game, BLG They're ahead in gold. They've got a bit of tempo here as well. They've got first items coming across the board, which I think is really important when we've got the dragon coming up in 50 seconds time. Paranoia was used because Xie, it was just running out there on the hijack, so he burns it down. Now we have to look towards the dragon where hijack won't be available for Xie. It's poor timing. It's a teleport's not available there as well. And Lyric, I think the important thing, coming back to my earlier point, Rift Maker there, Stride Breaker too. We have big mythics that BLG can really work with.
Yeah, now we want to start seeing BLG prepping for this next dragon.
Nice.
They have the TPs, as you already highlighted. Bubu can keep up that pressure in top lane, force someone to come answer a wave there. We see them doing a nice job of utilizing their bot lane prio as well, with PP God moving up. They push in the wave mid. And look at the map. Garvey now having to finally make his way back towards topside with Xie coming out. This should be a free objective for BLG, and I hope to see them opt into it.
They are looking for a little bit more, though. Vision lines the enemy jungle, and Shadow's trying to clear a control ward, but BLG keep moving. Wayway with the Sonic Wave. Another control ward put in basic. Kramer's low true shot barrage, having to run away on this Kai'Sa, and Aiming's just dominating this lasing phase as an Ezreal, no less.
Yeah, Aiming just hitting a ton of poke, you know. I guess Kramer either weaving in between the wave or something to where Aiming's able to hit these skill shots. And it looks like they're still going.
Okay, now for the engage. Shadow's down here as well. He's been ignited at half health once again. Aiming.
And need to flash.
Yeah, and that's not good. That's not good at all for LGD, Lyric. Dragon's going to go over. That's 2 dragons with a mountain soul. Sorry, a cloud soul. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. A cloud soul. Finishing off this game number 3. So, Divine Thunder in the bottom lane, man. Pressure through the mid lane in this 25 CS plus Akali.
Oh, God. Kramer.
And Wayway's going to die. The kick into the wall. Do you have a chance? Killer Instinct, you do. If you flash away. No summoners left available for Kramer, but bottom lane turret is assured, and Kramer now in threat of his life.
Yeah, neither Aiming or PP got in a position to follow up. You know, it's very easy to say something like, oh, they should have been walking forward earlier, but that probably would have tipped Kramer off that a play like that was happening. And no ultimate available for PP God. Sure, he can try to look for the flash stun, but Kramer did initially have that cleanse available. Yeah, and had to blow both summoners. And we're going to see LGD trade on the opposite side of the map for Rift Herald. So ultimately, LGD at least are getting something for their troubles. Kramer didn't go down in the end, but Zeke feeling a bit spicy.
Ooh, and hey, nice leash. What the? Okay, 5-point strike went behind the Krug, but didn't kill the Krug. It's an interesting interaction. Sonic Wave. Are we going to see the Dragon's Rage? Well, it's on cooldown, and so is the Flash. And Paranoia time. We're looking left, we're looking right, and suddenly there's a big spooky beast under the bed. He's jumped on top of us. Bubu sets up the play, but Wayway was kind of abandoned, went a bit deep, and there's a lot of stunning involving LGD as Garvey going to add another one in. Facebreaker at the ready, forces the flash over the wall from Bubu as PP God. Zed played on the back line. It's Shadow who burned his flash in the bottom lane. Garvey against the wall in the enemy jungle. It's time to die. Aiming to pick up the kill, and Shadow, time to run your little heart out. Stride Breaker, ready to fear. He gets the stun, but he's definitely done in the wrong way.
BLG had multiple people there after that skirmish should break out. Kramer was still coming from base for the side of LGD. I love seeing how Aiming played it as well. Those are the kind of aggressive moves forward that you want to see when you know you're in area of safety and just trying to put out the maximum amount of DPS possible. So BLG going to continue to extend their gold lead. They're also going to deny more gold from the side of LGD with this wave pushing in. Aiming is still just straight up chilling in the mid lane. Has Divine Thunder, has the Warhammer coming out. We're going to see how this all started. Actually, it's not how it all started because Wayway's already dead. It's just BLG following up, TP coming out from Akali. PP got doing a nice job of engaging onto Shadow, and Bubu able to keep that fear tether available as Aiming picks up that first kill. And I mean, Bubu doing a nice job just staying on target, has a Stride Breaker, able to get the next tether in, and it's going to secure that next kill. I do want to say, though, I don't think we're seeing the most standout game from Wayway on Lee Sin.
No. I don't think it's been anything exceptional, right? But I want to say that I think Zeke is playing the lane well and has been so far. PP God caught out Killer Instinct, but never mind. Okay, PP God can turn this around. He has Solar Flare. He has Flash, and look at Midway with the kick, turns it around. He said, Lyric, you talking smack about me? Sets up for the kill. Zika over the wall with the killer instinct, rather. His assassin's mark, the perfect execution already used, but the two-shot barrage from aiming yet again. Into the wall, LGD have got some damage. The face breaker from Garvey, good, but as he flashes away, it might just be to his death. Taking people with him is his job, but it's another win for BLG.
Yeah, 2 for 3 going over to the side of BLG. Once again, it's like, sure, they might not be turning this into anything like dragons or heralds or anything like that right now, but just think about how much passive gold that LGD's losing every time something like this happens.
Yep.
We're seeing them lose gold, we're seeing them lose in EXP, and if you're losing in EXP, you're losing in levels, which means you're losing out in base stats. We're going to see here, Weiwei did apparently hear me talking smack, did finally find a nice kick on this Lee Sin. We're going to see Viu go straight onto Xie, PD Gun Zika trying to follow up, but Viu is going to take a ton of damage and aiming with a really nice ultimate. And I feel like in both these last 2 games, we see, hey, the soul laners and support are doing a nice job of finding the targets and doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but aiming as well. Always left to his lonesome, always just able to output free damage on the back, but I like what you hit on before. This definitely feels like a game that's been all about Zika. And it's also nice that we're starting to see Zika come into his own and kind of do more of what Cream is doing on OMG.
Yep.
It's like, hey, if your best champions by far are assassins, just keep picking assassins, keep picking what you're good on and make it work. Especially here in the LPL where we see teams just fall back to their identity so much and it's never really about conforming to the same picks.
Well, Mark might have been caught out here. LGD trying to turn around, but Paranoia turns off the light. The electricity bill not paid. And for LGD, that means they can't eat. BLG find 2 more. That's quick kills onto Mark, onto Shadow. Zika chasing up.
Ooh.
Another assassination. It's a double kill. Solar Flare to stop the engagement. Zika still chasing away. No flash, but the 5-point strike. Nets the triple. Garvey left over. Quadra kill for Zika.
And this is the kind of highlight performance that people like Coma foresaw this player bringing over when he brought him under his wing. Nice to see Zika coming into his own, getting his hands on the LeBlanc, coming into this game, bringing out the Akali. Champions he looks much more proficient, much more comfortable in. He understands the dynamics and playstyle so well. He's playing extremely aggressive. I already highlighted, really love the Rift Maker coming in, going into the Morello for the amount of sustain coming out from the enemy soul laners, turning this into a Baron. And overall, it has been clean for the side of BLG so far.
It has, and it looks like a Game 3 where LGD are not going to be able to come back. 7k gold lead just about. Baron picked up. Soul in 2 Dragons time if we even get there. And no one can deal with the Akali. And on top of that, if you kill Zika, it's like, cool. Past that, aiming is still alive with 3 items too. And he's got himself a Frozen Heart, which against his composition is going to do so much. Plus, it adds so much more damage. So 3 item Ezreal online as well. And BLG are showing up massively. It's like Game 1 didn't exist.
No, BLG doing a nice job of getting themselves back in the series. And once again, hiding in the enemy jungle, looking for these picks, wanting to punish Mark.
And Mark, it's high Mark, and by Mark as well. Into the turret, good little face breaker, but kicked away. Won't save Zika's life. Down he goes, but remember I said this before, aiming is still alive with the Paranoia, turning the lights off once again, Viu into the backline, and LGD on the retreat path. Solar Flare misses around, but they've got more as a stolen Paranoia from Xie to re-engagement. Down he goes. Garvey as well, not getting any shielding. Back into the backline. Viu pulls them together, and everyone dies. Aiming fills the void, and BLG can do no wrong.
And I feel like that game might have very quickly changed from, hey, just going and taking Dragon to being able to end, but actually with the fact that they don't have a minion wave yet, it looks like that is not feasible. Only 20-second death timers. That would have been pretty cool, though. I love when games just explode open and then the most climactic / anticlimactic ending. I know that doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to me. Happens at the same time.
Well, game's not going to find its climactic ending this time around, but it all feels assured. BLG 8k gold lead, Dragon taken, Inhibitor down, or at least Inhibitor turret, I believe, in the end. Inhibitor was left to be spared, and Lyric, Zika on a ward, but LGD tried to bait them in, but there's just so much damage and follow-ups.
And look at the minimap, right? Everyone is nearby. Aiming's already here. PP God's on his way. Nocturne has Paranoia available. Sure, Zika goes down to start, but the large lead coming out from the side of BLG. Look at Aiming on the back line. Once again, untouched, able to throw out those W's and Q's, dishing out so much damage. Shie thinking he can find something going back in, but Aiming goes forward. Bubu's still a menace, and this just leads to a massive team-fight victory for the side of BLG.
And as they clean up the last one, we come back to Summer's Rift live, ready for BLG to take it home. This series has been very back to front. LGD started it out with an under 30-minute game 1, but BLG game 2. Now game 3 have looked like the stronger team. And Lyric, you know, we're talking about Zika a lot. He died in the last fight, but remember, this is a 3-item Akali still going to be looking at him in the fights. You were talking a bit before, you know, Coma saw, sorry, not the emote. Coma saw something in him before. Now Coach Kim is on this team. 2 worlds coach for this Korean mid laner. Kind of exciting to watch him pop off. He's separated from the team though. Shia trying to go in with him. Scott Duck Garvey with the flank here. Found a pick off. Everfrost is there as well. But is that enough? The lights again. Where did they go? Garvey to the back line. It's actually View, excuse me. As Zika finds the first one. Everyone low. Through the back line. Down goes Kramer. Mark next. This is a triple kill, but the Panther's taken away. Zika won't find it this time. Instead, it's Garvey on the top side. I'm absolutely wrong. Penta can still be achieved. The Shadow runs for his life, but now it's definitely taken. Spoke to 20 seconds too early as BLG take another fight.
And Garvey comes in on the flank because Zika's just living rent-free in his head, goes for that showstopper. But guess what? He's an Akali. He can just pop the Shroud. I'm pretty sure he already has the Zanyas.
Oh, no.
He's just straight up chilling.
And wow, okay, Shuriken flip, Lyric. That was a nice
spin. That was really depressing for Shadow. Zika coming in with the TP. That kill doesn't even really mean too much in the grand scheme of things, but you know, padding his KDA even further, gonna make him lose out on some golden EXP. But we're gonna see here, Garvey going for this play. He has the Zanyas, he has the Shroud available. It just buys time for the rest of the team to come in. And he just keeps going forward. Nice ult coming out from him. He's out. We see Aiming throwing off Mystic shots on the back line. And Zika just looks like he's playing with his food at this point under turret.
Yep, absolutely is. I was right as well. Mark goes down to Aiming. Just trying to track this Penta because of how much damage this Akali was doing. And that's a hard fight to track, and because you set up the conditions that both these comps are going to be diving at each other. And even though LGD is so far behind, they're still doing it. They're still running into BLG. But BLG with the 11k gold lead, you can see, win it out quite easily. 9-1 and 6 here on the mid lane at Akali. It's a 6-0-7 Ezreal from Aiming. Now going into the last whisper. Probably that Serelda's grudge on the way. And this is, again, still running the same path for BLG. Look at what Bubu's doing, setting up the side waves, while mid, top, all pressuring in from different angles against LGD's structures. That's okay.
Paranoia, though.
Yeah, we're finding the backline. BLG has found himself Kramer. Killer Instinct does absolutely nothing. They're now turning on the Shadow. Garvey's there, though. It's a stolen Paranoia. But the lights, again, are only out for LGD. 4 dead, Mark left to watch, and BLG are finally going to run it to the base.
And you could feel that LGD felt it was doomed, just continuously trying to flip it, try and find some kind of advantage. But BLG have gotten their advantages. Zika has gotten his massive advantage, Aiming, playing aggressively, and this will be BLG finally picking up a series win.
Against LGD, no less. They go to a game 3, but this time around, they finally secure it down. In 27 minutes, BLG open up their LPL season, or at least open up their wins against LGD.
They open up their week 2 with finally something a lot of us have been expecting for a while, but still, LGD putting up a close fight in the series overall. But in the end, Zika getting his hands on some assassins, some hype games from Bubu on the Lee Sin, and yeah, we come up with a series win for the side of BLG. Weiwei might not have been able to do much early on that game on his Lee Sin, but did find some good kicks later on, and BLG overall, I think showing a semblance of what we expected from them. Not to say that they didn't perform decently in their other series, right? Because they were always able to pick up a win, but definitely felt like it was just a matter of time before BLG got in the W column.
Especially with how the early games have gone, right? You know, we saw it this time around that even game 2, you can use that as data. where BLG held on to their early game leads. They held on to control and didn't really give anything back to LGD. I think this time around as well, we kind of saw, Weiwei in that commanding position once more, but more so, okay, it wasn't Weiwei commanding position. It was the solo laners, Lyric, who did so well. Bilibili on the Nocturne, Zika on the Akali, and even aiming in the bottom lane. He might not have had a CS lead, but he for sure was winning that bottom lane just through pressure alone.
Yeah, he definitely had a phenomenal game and a good series overall, but it's nice to see PP God also have a better series, right? I think game 2 especially is where he massively stood out. So we're starting to see some signs of life come from this squad. For the side of LGD, it's really interesting because we see some games like game 1 where it comes together extremely well. You can see they understand their win condition of like how to play out these 5v5s. They don't take the early game too fast. And then you see other games like game 2 and game 3 where Shadow is still able to find the first kill early on, link up with his top laner, but from there it's like, you're losing mid and bot decently hard. Your comp, sure, it does have like a very holistic identity set, but it also feels like for the fact that you have the same identity as BLG's comp, but they just have winning lanes, it feels like BLG got the better end of that trade, especially when they're getting all the priority picks in terms of they picked up the Ezreal, they picked up the Nocturne, they got the Lee Sin. Like think about that. They got Ezreal, Nocturne, and Lee Sin in the same draft. Akali, which might not be high priority here, but you can see from other regions is a champion that a lot of people view in the S tier. So game 3, they just kind of stacked a bunch of quote-unquote OP champions together and were able to take advantage. And it just doesn't seem like LGD were able to keep up from early game, at least in that game 3, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, game 2 was just kind of unfortunate that Garvey got punished so hard, and it felt pretty doomed once the Gwen was 0-4.
Whereas this time, I think as well, like on top of the draft, you're exactly right. But then those winning lanes transitioned to the bottom lane, and we saw TPs had to be used, it had to be responded to, and Garvey moved out of his top lane. Bubi got to push for turret plating. Shia had to cover and use the TP as well. And TP advantages from there. I mean, Zika, Bubu that enabled BLG to push for some of these early objectives and keep control going, keep tempo going. Definitely felt like a lane game rather than Weiwei just making sure he can farm and then, get some good of these kicks off that we saw towards the end of the fights. But just look at aiming's damage. I mean, this tells a story, right? Aiming throughout the lane, got an early Divine Sunderer, and Kramer was forced out of lane, 2-3 times we saw him back and get pushed back, and it was a miracle he could keep up in CS.
The funniest part? That was a pick 5 Ezreal, remember? That was lit all the way through. LGD ignored it, and then when it looked like it'd be the best pick for BLG's draft, again, I feel like that was at least like decently a given, is like, hey, they need a self-sufficient AD carry. They're going to go for the Ezreal. Gets his hands on it for free on pick 5 on red side, and he's able to do so much work with it. We've seen both games that LGD just don't really have an answer to being able to force on the backline, and this is the sort of comp that needs to do that. But when they don't have control of the vision, control and river in their own jungle, they're not able to get on targets. They're pretty much always just having to answer Bubu and Zika jumping on top of Kramer instantly.
Yeah, I mean, look, I feel for LGD, but at the end of the day, this was, something we've seen coming through. I guess game 2 especially. We've seen the best of Garvey, we've seen the worst of Garvey. Throughout this series, we saw that, Shia on the Silas didn't have much of an impact. You could say it's due to game state or whatever, but yeah, I think analyzing LGD here, Lyric, it's hard in what position to put them in, because as I open up their little page on LPL, it feels like LGD are a team that can have these amazing games like game 1 and then completely fall apart, or like whether it's drafting or otherwise, and then look like a completely different beast, later in the series.
Yeah, they're in a very similar position to Ultra Prime as me, where they have some very like interesting and like great pieces on this roster, but some other areas that typically falter. And again, they're bringing a lot of new pieces together, and like, sure, some of these guys have played together in the past, but you're still having to rebuild from the ground up. And yeah, LGD not able to pull it through. I think especially when you do have some players that are more quote-unquote coin flippy. Not a big fan of that term, but I think Garvey's been a player who shows that, as we've hit on. Yep. Shie is a player who I think on specific champions is an absolute monster, and on others, kind of falls more to about your average LPL player. So this game, I think it was a little bit about, right, losing out in those early laning phases, but especially in the mid game where we saw, TPs being forced out to where then LGD are forced into weird positions. I remember the double TP being forced out by when BLG were aggressing onto them.
Yep.
To just how much like tempo you lose on the map because of a play like that, and then you're at a TP disadvantage, which then sets up for the next play coming out from BLG. A lot of moments like that, which gave BLG their windows where they started racking up this gold lead, because this gold lead didn't just explode out of nowhere, right? It was very small and very incremental. It's like, okay, 500, 1,000, 2,000, so on and so forth over like a very long period of time.
But it was kind of like that in game 2, where, LGD committed to a play like Herald play towards the top side, where, Kramer moved as well, and aiming was just sitting bottom hitting turret plates because, BLG are like, all right, we'll make the call for the lane itself. And I think that's why we've seen, BLG in the past, at least this split, play so well. As Zeke's MVP, by the way, is that through these lanes, playing through the lanes itself, that's why they've had part of the reason they've had such a good early game, right? The 11-1 and 8 Akali was exactly that, a winning lane, sure, but Zeke always held control and always had the TP advantage, always had good objective control. There's nothing wrong you can say about this man in the third game.
I liked his itemization as well on top of that. Just overall spectacular mechanics, and he showed the same things that he did in game 2 on this Akali pick, that he understands where he needs to be positioning relative to where the enemy comps are, and like whatever BLG are doing, right? They're taking aggressive vision. Maybe they're pushing a turret on bot side. He's hovering around in jungle waiting for the other members to rotate to try to pick them off. You'll constantly see plays like this where only if you're a real proficient assassin player do you know to constantly look for these windows. He knows when he needs to go back and catch a wave, or when is it more important to do that. So phenomenal performance coming out from him, I think, in both these past 2 games. And the only thing I hope to see from him is like what I said in game. Just, play to your strength, adapt the identity like Cream. Cream's just picking up a bunch of assassins. He knows on OMG that's what he was strong on in LDL. And it'd be nice to see Zika do the same. It's not to say Zika can't play other things, right? Because we've seen in lane his set's competent, and he was able to play mages last year as well. But it doesn't seem like relative to the team, he knows how he should be playing them.
Yeah.
He's able to figure out the laning phase aspect, but right, like mid-game and how to position in team fights and what windows to look for are completely different. So definitely a skill he's going to have to build up. But on Assassins, this man is second to none.
Yeah, that's true.
Zika versus Cream.
Oh.
I want that.
That'd actually be really nice. I mean, Zika not as new as Cream, of course, but I'm just looking at BLG's next matchup. We do have Suning, so it's going to be a very different style, but you do get Zika versus Cream week 3, sorry. On Saturday versus OMG. That should actually be a good matchup, considering that OMG are 1-1 and actually don't look too bad themselves.
No, definitely not. And Hysterics, one thing we need to think about is, what were the results of today? Because maybe people are just tuning in.
Wow.
Maybe our producer's saying that in my ear. But yeah, let's see what happened today, Hysterics, as you break it down for us.
What a seamless transition, man. Who knew we were going to look at today's results? WE versus V5 was a stomp. Well, okay. Game 1 wasn't, was it? Game 2 was. V5 actually a better, I think this whole split teams have been better than expected, to be fair. V5
even Rogue Warriors and V5, who when we looked at the rosters we thought this was going to be rough, both of them have showed games where like you could see it working, right? Game 1 obviously today for the side of Victory 5, we're like, hey, draft's a little bit wonky, but the plays are there, they're pulling it together. WE though, moving up to 3-0. BLG finally picking up their first win, somehow getting pretty much every power pick in the book in that last game. And yeah, that leaves us in a pretty interesting state in the LPL hierarchy.
That's true. Have a look at standings, because there are 4 teams at the moment undefeated. Count 5. Because RNG come back Friday.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, I fixed myself. RNG are coming back.
You are on top of it.
On Friday, sir. We'll have a look at tomorrow because, look, this is pretty obvious. We're looking at JDG, Rare Adam trying to climb their way up, but LNG, a bit of a surprise to all, as we will see them tomorrow versing another undefeated team. LNG versus FPX. Top eSports versus TT could be exciting, depending on how TT go, but FPX versus LNG is a certified banger with a ribbon wrapped around it.
Definitely. And, you know, I actually think both these matchups will be exciting. Like, FPX LNG, clearly the hype match of tomorrow. But the fact that we haven't seen Top Esports show up yet, I'm not counting TT out of winning that matchup. I think Top Esports need to show us something that they didn't in that first series. So tomorrow's going to be another day of key learnings here in the LPL, which is, you know, that's what the first few weeks are always about, gauging where teams are relative to each other, seeing what they learn, seeing what they bring out in draft. And tomorrow will be no different.
That's exactly right. Over in Suzhou, LNG versus FPX in their home arena. A side note as well, I know in the past couple of days, people have been asking why we don't have interviews. Interviews are only, of course, when we're at Shanghai. That's where Wendy is. So when we are in Hongqiao Arena in Shanghai, we have interviews after game. But of course, when we're in Xi'an, like we were today, or LGD's arena in Hangzhou, we do not have interviews there, unfortunately. So yeah, some days we have to miss out. But tomorrow, you know, TT versus Top Esports should have an interview after that. So looking forward to getting perspective. Lyric, big thank you for joining me for tonight. It is 11:30 here. I know it's 5:30 in the morning or something crazy for you there. So thank you as always. Thank you to our production team here at the LPL English. We'll be back with you tomorrow at the same time. So it's bye for now, but not forever. Good night.